This is a hard one. Make great decisions, because it's not always possible to make a great decision, is it?
Yes.
All right, now you got to tell us how.
I think it is because normally you can tell whether a decision was good or bad in hindsight. You look back and work out whether it worked out the way you thought it was going to work out, and away you go. I think there are a number of indicators that can tell us prospectively whether or not a decision we make is good, bad, or indifferent. For example, a great decision is going to be timely. It's got to be fast. And I think the biggest problem we have these days is decisions are too slow. So you're after momentum. I always say a decision that's 80% right today is infinitely better than a decision that's 85% right next week, which is infinitely better than a decision that's 90% right next month. And we know that nothing ever gets to 100%, nothing, ever, right? So it's about making those judgment calls and moving forward. Most of the time we hesitate on decisions because we're afraid of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And we can move a lot faster than we think. So the way I came across this was I found myself leading through a number of different crises where I didn't have the clock. I didn't control it. I know you're a chess player.
Yep.
You hit that clock, someone else, you're not controlling that. And so I didn't have the tempo and the clock myself. It was either driven by the media, who was putting cameras and microphones in my face, a regulator who was investigating an incident, an asset failure where we had to get that asset up and running again quickly. It was always driven by someone else's tempo. And I found that the decisions I was making in those times were actually really good. So I deconstructed what I was doing that was the essential parts of decision making, that wasn't slowing me down, but was helping me to get effective decisions. So things like knowing who to consult and how much to consult, making sure that there's a strong line of accountability for making the decision, making sure that all of the available inputs are there but not waiting for stuff that may never turn up, making sure that you bring the most out of the people around you. And so it's one thing to have diversity, but unless you can actually find a way to take that diversity out of people and let them put it on the table, it's not of much value to you, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And so all of these things, making sure that you look at the balance of interest between all the stakeholders who are affected by a decision, measuring short-term versus long-term elements of a decision.
Okay.
And most of all, making sure that you're hitting the root cause and not just the symptoms of a problem. So these things are all pretty important when it comes to making great decisions. And if you think about it in those terms and look at each of those things, you can actually make pretty good calls.